our top story tonight, and Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, while speaking at an e-commerce event earlier in the day, he raised red flags with respect to the expansion of e-commerce as an industry in India. He said, and I quote, "Are we going to cause huge social disruption with this massive growth of e-commerce? I don't see it as a matter of pride that half a market may become part of the e-commerce network 10 years from now. It is a matter of concern," he said. He also added, stating that Amazon's India investments are only to fill balance sheet losses. Minister Goyal, remember, also added that while e-commerce has a place in the Indian economy, its impact should be carefully managed. Let's listen into what he said, and then we'll move on to the experts who will be decoding his comments and the impact that it is having on the ecosystem overall. Let's listen into what the minister said.
Are we going to cause huge social disruption with this massive growth of e-commerce? And I don't see it a matter of pride that half our market could possibly become a part of the e-commerce network 10 years from now. It's a matter of concern. I don't deny that e-commerce has a role, but we'll have to think very carefully and cautiously what that role is, how that role can be in a more organized fashion. Is predatory pricing policies good for the country?
All right, and to discuss that further, I'm now joined by Praveen Khandelwal, who's an MP from Delhi, and in fact, he's also Secretary General at Confederation of All India Traders, ORCAT. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this evening on ET Now. I want to first understand from you, how can the role of e-commerce be a balanced one, and how big of a concern, is it for domestic companies, local kirana shops? You have, of course, spoken about, big e-commerce companies and the need to have a level playing field. What do you really make of the minister's comments today? He sounded a little uncertain about the future of these kiranas.
Well, the statement of Shri Piyush Goyal has corroborated the fear which were expressed by us since last so many years. And he has rightly pointed out the modus operandi of the e-commerce players, those who are dumping foreign funding into India, not to make any investment, but it is just to fund their losses. See, we need to understand what is investment. Investment is when you create some kind of infrastructure, you create logistic services, or you create a supply chain. That is called investment. But what is real happening is that the money you are getting from your sources in foreign country or from your parent nation, you are diverting those funds to sustain your business operations, which are facing losses due to indulging of in predatory pricing, deep discounting, and loss funding, and also owing inventory. So this is totally against the fundamentals of FDI policy. That is what we are urging since since a very long time. So I must compliment Shri Piyush Goyal ji for making such a bold statement and articulate the methodology of these e-commerce companies. I think the time has come when e-commerce policy and rules must be notified. My only submission is, yes, e-commerce is a growing future in the country, but e-commerce must be for the small retailers to come up on e-commerce platforms, and this is the mandate of FDI policy. But in companies are not doing this thing.
Yes, sir, and very valid concerns that you're raising over the issue of predatory pricing and, of course, deep discounting. And you did mention about the e-commerce policy. In fact, that has been in discussion since very long. It was expected to come out earlier this year, but then it got delayed. By when do you think the government is looking at introducing that policy? Is that a priority for the government in this term over the next few months?
Well, the statement made by Shri Piyush Goyal ji today amply reflects the priority of the government because the concerns he has expressed are the ground realities. And I am sure that very soon the India will get not only the e-commerce policy, but the rules for under Ministry of Consumer Affairs.
Right, sir. One final question before we let you go. Now, while Minister Goyal didn't really advocate for wishing away of e-commerce, but he did raise some very valid points. The question now is what kind of changes or principles need to be set in motion, need to be brought in the current climate where the pace of growth of e-commerce can be balanced with protecting local interests?
See, nothing much to say on this, that they should not treat India as a banana republic and they should not violate the law of the land. That is point number one. Point number two, they should be held responsible for creating an even level playing field, which is a fundamental point of the existing FDI policy. So we are ready to compete with anybody and everybody, provided we have a healthy competition. So if there is a healthy competition, the e-commerce in India will grow leaps and bounds.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Khandelwal, for joining us and discussing your thoughts on this very crucial topic that has created quite a flutter in digital media ecosystem and, of course, amidst the industry as well. And now we're joined by another guest, Gurcharan Das, who's an author and commentator, also former CEO of P&G India. Thank you very much, Mr. Das, for joining us today. Let's get in your first reaction on Minister Goyal's speech. Very valid points raised on protecting traditional stores while also making sure that e-commerce in the country grows. Let's get in your first thoughts and then we'll move on to the next few questions.
My heart is with the minister, what he had to say, but my head goes against it. I think he's very, very wrong. Now, let me tell you why I feel, why I feel emotionally with him. And this is because really I go to bookshops. I'm a writer now. And so I go to bookshops, I browse around the books, and I sometimes wonder how long this bookshop will actually last. And so I have a nostalgic feeling, just as I did as a child when I grew up in Lailpur and we had a tonga at home and a horse, and we used to go galloping on the tonga with this horse, and my childhood memories are wonderful. But then the automobile came, and surely automobiles displaced tongas. And so to say that we should go back to tongas is wrong, just as is to say that, television had displaced the movies to a great extent and the internet. Now, it's nice to go to the movies and meet your friends. Now, your heart is there. Emotionally, you feel that. But rationally,
Right, sir.
you can't say that we should get rid of cars, we should get rid of television, we should get rid of the internet.
Absolutely.
So,
Very, very valid point raised. And that really brings me to my next question, Mr. Das. This really is indeed what you're talking about is the natural progression of technology, free market dynamics playing out, and of course reflects changing consumer behavior as well, which is not just India specific, but is being seen the world over. So when we talk about UPI, we have moved on from physical currency notes to digital money as well. But when Minister Goyal speaks about having a well-considered approach to the role of e-commerce and its place in the Indian economy, what does it really mean and how do you see that playing out?
well, frankly, as a person who grew up in the consumer product business, I can say the most difficult thing for a manufacturer is to get distribution for his or her product. And e-commerce has made it not only possible, but has opened the global market for India's brands. And I was delighted to see that day when I read about a Indian crafts product that is making a success around the world. And so, what I would say is that this is the best favor. E-commerce has done the biggest favor to the small Indian manufacturer who could never have hoped to get distribution in the global market, which is now possible today. And it is it is the biggest, and the Pehla Foundation report, which is a wonderful report based on hugely credible source of the methodology, etc. And it shows that 54% people small manufacturers who use the platform of e-commerce have added 54% more jobs than offline retailers. So this is just one of the many things. But you know, I read every day about how the e-commerce players are spending billions in India to buy Indian goods for exporting abroad. I mean, 10 billion, I read the other day, was a target of
Right,
Flipkart and Amazon,
right.
etc. So I'm saying that
Yes.
the reality, my head tells me that the minister, with all due respect, he is wrong. The Repellers Foundation report, which is the trigger for today's discussion,
Right, right.
shows
Right,
you
Mr. Das.
that the
Right, Mr.
number
Das.
of
So I think
people.
when you speak about e-commerce as an industry growing in India, we also have to see how how quickly quick commerce companies are really moving forth. Of course, looking at even displacing e-commerce. So while Minister Goyal didn't really advocate for wishing away of e-commerce, he did raise some valid points about how the growth of e-commerce can really be all-rounded and well balanced, so that the interests of local kirana stores do not really get impacted. Now, the question really is, what kind of principles does India really need to bring in the current climate, where the pace of growth of e-commerce can really be balanced with protecting local shops and stores? Also, sir, what is your take on his statement, especially considering that India is looking at attracting foreign direct investment in the country? India is looking at attracting foreign companies to invest in India. How will that then be looked at?
Well, very good questions. Very good questions, Sumita. The reality is that let's look at e-commerce in the context of India's objectives, India's priorities. India's priorities is jobs. Jobs will come never in India's market. It's a myth to say India's market is very big and we can create enough jobs for our people. No country was able to do that. Not the United States, big country, not China. So we have to depend on exports. So exports is where we have been let down. Our manufacturing has, to be very honest, it has failed. Our exports of labor-intensive of any manufacturer is 2% of global exports of $24 trillion. And so anyone who can help in pushing jobs and exports, jobs will come through exports, and exports are being helped by e-commerce, and jobs are being helped by e-commerce. You know, the report of the Pehla Foundation makes it really very clear. This report shows that the number of jobs that have been created, let me just just read to you, because I was just going through the report a minute ago, that it has created 15.8 million jobs, that is 1.6 crore jobs, and including 3.5 million for women. And frankly, women employed in e-commerce sector are 2 times the women employed in the offline sector. So I think that's why I said, my head does not agree with the Honorable Minister. He's a good man. I emotionally agree with him, but he is
Right.
wrong on this count that let us not look back to the days of the horse and buggy. Let's not look back to the days that television came,
Yes.
and let's not get rid of the internet. All these things are part of our future,
Right.
and we have to participate in that future. Now,
Absolutely.
as much as I feel, I don't think that
Absolutely.
Kirana stores are in danger the way some people say. Frankly, in the most developed e-commerce market, the United States, e-commerce represents only 22% of retail sales. So online sales are still
Right.
80%. And so there's nothing to fear, no
Absolutely.
need for alarm, no need for nostalgia for the past of your childhood, which I also feel. But let's do the right thing for the country. And as a well wisher of the country, I would say that we should, we should encourage e-commerce. We should encourage the fact
Absolutely.
that we are lucky to have
Absolutely, sir. We should
global
absolutely
players
encourage
in it.
e-commerce, and of course keep moving ahead with technology. And as technology is taking strides, of course, AI coming into the picture. Quick commerce, like I said, is also taking a rapid strides as far as customer traction is concerned. So the only way is to move forward while also protecting the interests of local mom and pop stores. And how that really happens will be clearer once the government really comes out with its e-commerce policy, and that is something that we'll be keeping a close watch on. On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Das, once again on taking the time out and speaking with ET Now. Always a pleasure to have you and have your perspectives on our channel.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.